I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I feel like I'm on top of the world.
Disclaimer, you will not be transported to the top of the world. In the unlikely event you find yourself at the Arctic Circle, seek shelter from the elements immediately to avoid frostbite and or hypothermia. Geico will not be responsible if you find yourself in a cave or crevasse with a lonely abominable snowman, who in all likelihood will force you to play games including but not limited to Go Fish, charades, Chinese checkers, or his personal favorite, Red Rover, send Yeti on over. Geico is not liable for any damages, either physical or emotional.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. Stephen A. Smith Show coming at you, as I love to do, every weekday over the airwaves of ESPN Radio in over 250 markets across the United States of America. And, of course, on ESPN Radio, Sirius XM style, Channel 80. It's time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. Number to call up, as always, is 888-729-3776. That's 888-SAY-ESPN. ESPN jam-packed show coming your way today. Get into a potpourri of issues. Obviously, the NFL playoffs, week 2 of the NFL playoffs is about to unfold. New England and Tennessee, Pittsburgh and Jacksonville, Atlanta at Philadelphia, and, of course, New Orleans heading to Minnesota to place the Vikings. We'll get into all of that stuff. Whether or not, if you had an option to pick, what option would it be? Nick Saban, whether it's the Giants, the Indianapolis Colts, or the Detroit Lions, do you pick a coach to coach one of those franchises, or do you just give the job to Nick Saban and make sure everybody's working under him? Which direction would you choose to go in if indeed you had the choice? Those are all subjects that we'll broach today. But there's a couple of things on my mind. First things first, the greatness of Kevin Durant. Boy, do I wish this man was a New York Knick. My heart would be so beautiful. Not so much L.A. I like their young crop of guys. When I think of Kevin Durant, I think about guys in L.A. When in L.A., I want a personality. In New York, I just want results. I don't give a damn if you're as boring as rain. I don't care. As long as you could play and you could get it done, that's all I care about in New York City. In L.A., I want showtime. I want pizzazz. I want a showman. I want a box office attraction. Not to say that he's not, but when you look at somebody like a LeBron James, it's a little bit different. When you look at the personality that comes with Laker Nation and what have you, it requires just a little bit different from what New York or New Yorkers require. That would just be me. But Kevin Durant, 25 points away from becoming the second youngest player in NBA history to reach 20,000 points for his career. Number 1 is LeBron James on that list, obviously. Number 2 is now Kevin Durant, who dropped 25 points in the first half. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to throw out some of these numbers because I have been on the record saying that I think Kevin Durant has an opportunity. Without question, I think he'll end up top 10 all time. I think he has a chance to be top 5 all time. I really, really do. Now, when we talk about my 5, I'm going by position per se. My top 5 would be Magic, MJ, LeBron, Tim Duncan, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. That would be my top 5. But you see, that's different positions. That's not just naming players. I got news for you. Kevin Durant keeps on this base. I got to think about Kevin Durant and how I would put him on this team. And who's the one guy that I might take off? I might take off Magic. I know it might be sacrilegious to say that because Magic Johnson is the greatest point guard ever. He's a 5-time champion. He galvanized the troops. He was the ultimate leader, which makes him, in the eyes of many, the greatest Laker of all time. For me, as great as Magic Johnson was as a leader and a winner, naturally born winner, his talent and skill level wasn't comparable to this brother. Kevin Durant is 6'11", y'all. He's got a 7'6" wingspan. He got a handle like a guard. He's a career 88% shooter from the free throw line. Ladies and gentlemen, the man hasn't shot less than 50% from the field in the last 5 years. He's a career 48.9% shooter, 38% from three-point range, 88% from the free throw line. He averages 27.2 points for his career. And the only reason, while the numbers are down, by 2 points from his time in Seattle and OKC to the Golden State Warriors is because he took 2 less shots per game. And for those of you wondering as to whether or not he shows up come playoff time, in the playoffs, although his percentage dropped by a couple of points in terms of shooting percentage, the dude is a career 28.8 point per game scorer in the playoffs. And over his last 6 times he's been in the postseason, he's averaged over 28 points. 28.6, 28.5, 38, 29.6, 28.4, 28.5. In case you're forgetting, he's the reigning NBA Finals MVP, averaging 35 a game on better than 53% shooting. The brother's on another level. Now, I've been on the record stating that his move to Golden State was the weakest move that I've ever seen by a superstar. I have not changed my mind. I still feel that way. But don't get it twisted. That's all I feel. It doesn't take anything away from his greatness as a player. What a superstar he is, and how I widely consider him to be the second best player on the planet. And I think that if he shows up during these NBA Finals, he'll actually eclipse LeBron. If he outplays LeBron again and he wins another NBA Finals MVP and another championship, I think it's time to say it's the Kevin Durant era. Ain't gonna be no more of this King James stuff. I'm sorry. 888-SAY-ESPN is the number to call. That's 888-729-3776. Another item I wanted to get into was that the Fritz Pollard Alliance is calling for an investigation into the Oakland Raiders hiring of John Gruden as its coach. They want an investigation because of the fact that the Rooney Rule may have been violated. Because the Rooney Rule, as you all know, essentially is a rule implemented to ensure that minorities will get interviews for jobs in the National Football League. And obviously the Raiders bypassed that, and Mark Davis, the owner for the Oakland Raiders, put his foot in his mouth because he basically conceded that John Gruden and he had reached a deal prior to the season's ending. So while John Gruden was in the booth working on Monday Night Football, according to Mark Davis, he had already agreed to become the next head coach for the Oakland Raiders. Even though we have John Gruden on tape, if Mark Davis is to be believed, apparently lying through his teeth about having a job. But that's neither here nor there. An investigation is what's being called for by the Fritz Pollard Alliance, led by John Wooten, the chairman for the Fritz Pollard Alliance, obviously present and in association with the NFL to improve minority relations and things pertaining to opportunities for minorities. Ladies and gentlemen, as you all know, I am a black man hosting this national radio show. And I will sit here on this nationally syndicated radio show and tell you all, as a black man, this call for an investigation has zero merit. There is no reason for it to take place. The Oakland Raiders have John Gruden as their coach. And folks, I hate to break it to you, but the investigation is not warranted. Do you know why? John Wooten was on the record talking about how the Raiders didn't violate the policy because they did interview minority candidates. And on top of it all, no team is compelled to inform the league of candidates that were interviewed that aren't associated with the league. Even though that is wrong because ESPN is associated with the NFL because we're in partnership with the NFL. And as the voice of Monday Night Football, that means John Gruden was associated with the NFL. Even though that's true. Fritz Pollard Alliance is already on the record saying that there was no need. There was no problem with the hiring process. So a week later, you've changed your mind. Tough cookies. And oh, by the way, Reggie McKenzie is an African-American who happens to be the general manager of the Oakland Raiders. Why in the hell did you not go to your boss, Mark Davis, and say, before we announce that John Gruden is the coach, Let me interview these minority candidates, which, by the way, Reggie McKenzie told the Fritz Pollard Alliance and others that he had actually done, but also bring them out in a public forum so everyone could know who they are. Why did you not do that? I respect John Wooten. I respect Reggie McKenzie and what he has accomplished in his career. In this particular sequence, as it strictly and solely pertains to the hiring of John Gruden by the Oakland Raiders, the ball was dropped. And it was dropped by two black men. That is not the NFL's problem. And now it's not even the Oakland Raiders' problem. It would happen to be ours as a community. Because for a moment, we forgot what the spirit of the Rooney Rule was all about. I am younger than Reggie McKenzie. I am younger than John Wooten. Without question, I'm not more knowledgeable, and I certainly haven't made their sacrifices. I respect both men, and in no way am I trying to castigate them. I'm simply pointing out a fact. They dropped the ball on this. That's their problem. That's our problem as a community. It is not the NFL problem. It is not the Oakland Raiders problem. And it certainly shouldn't be John Gruden's problem. It absolutely should not be his problem. Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. The number to call up as always is 888-729-3776. That's 888-SAY-ESPN. Your calls and more coming up in a minute. You are listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
The number to call up as always is 888-729-3776. That's 888-SAY-ESPN. Listen, we got a lot of stuff to get into, some NBA action, the way Kevin Durant looked last night, the way he looks, and what your expectations are for this season, Cleveland and their struggles. Who's your surprise in the NBA this season? Who's your biggest disappointment? In a little while, I'm going to tell you who my biggest disappointment is in the NBA thus far. Who my biggest disappointment is in the NBA thus far. And I'm not playing. I'll be getting into all of that. Plus, I'll be getting into Mike Mitchell and his damn comments. I'm a Steelers fan. How could you open your mouth about Tom Brady and the New England Patriots like that? I mean, what are you thinking? Oh, I can't wait to touch on that subject as well. But I ended the first segment one, talking about the Rooney Rule. Ladies and gentlemen, understand something. We live in a mosaic. Sometimes it's absolutely positively gorgeous, particularly when you compare it to the rest of the world. But in the United States of America, you have a lot of people that are sitting there talking about, what the hell are you worried about what's going on in the rest of the world first? Have you not looked at what's going on in our country? You got some people that's for building a wall, some people that are against it. But universally, practically, almost everybody is asking $18 billion on a wall. You know how much $18 billion could do to resolve some of the problems that exist right here in the United States of America? These are the kind of things that people talk about. And as it pertains to the Rooney Rule, where you're talking about the National Football League, I'm not going to spend a whole bunch of time on it, but it's important to bring up. It's important to articulate. See, this is one of those examples that I want to use to emphasize and to illuminate how fair-minded I am. I don't care that a black candidate doesn't have the Oakland Raiders job. I think it's perfectly understandable why the Raiders picked John Gruden. John Gruden is synonymous with Raider Nation. Those people love him. And if you're the Oakland Raiders and you have an opportunity to give the fans what they want to see, especially when it comes to coaching, because you damn sure can't seem to do it on the field, why not hire John Gruden? Even if it did cost you $100 million. I understand. There's no issue with a minority not getting that job. The problem is when the rule is clearly in place that minority candidates have to be interviewed. Yes, you have to interview them. No, you do not have an obligation to showcase them. John Wooten of the Fritz Pollard Alliance was right when he said that last week. Reggie McKenzie didn't violate any rules. But if you're John Wooten, almost 80 years of age, as knowledgeable and as seasoned as you are, you're gonna know about crawling and walking 1,000 times better than me. So if the man interviews 2 minority candidates, what in God's name makes you think minority candidates are benefited by them being interviewed but nobody knowing about the damn interview? What purpose does that serve? I'm looking at my producers, Nuno and Jonathan and Kat. Am I wrong? What purpose does it serve if you haven't let everybody know who the damn candidate is? How does that help the minority candidate? How does it help? And if you're Reggie McKenzie, who's an African-American executive in the National Football League, you're a general manager, for Christ's sakes. How do you not know that we need to see that man, whoever you interviewed, walking out in front of the camera with the world knowing you interviewed him for the job? How do you not know the benefit of that? How do you not know? Now, I'm in Atlanta the other day, Tuesday to be exact. National championship game aftermath. And I had the distinct pleasure of speaking to Mr. David Dickey, who runs a radio station there in Atlanta, Georgia. And to hear this man speak so fervently, so enthusiastic and optimistically about sports talk radio and about the various communities that exist within the Atlanta area, and especially urban areas throughout Atlanta, minority communities throughout Atlanta, you got something special. This man is coming. I know a winner when I see one. This man is special. And you're talking about an individual that's paying attention to dollars and where they're emanating from in regards to all communities. You're also talking and listening to him talk about what works. What are the kind of things that people want to hear? What do they want to see? And how attaching something that's visible, that's almost tangible, that you can reach out and touch and you feel like you've got a personal relationship with it, how it matters. Reggie McKenzie might not have gotten the general manager's job that way, but he certainly could have facilitated that kind of opportunity happening for others. If John Gruden, simple question, ladies and gentlemen, because you might be asking, Stephen A., where's he going with this? Simple question. If John Gruden had not been on Monday Night Football all of these years, would the Oakland Raiders have spent $100 million to get him? Of course not. You were willing to pay that kind of money because John Gruden was synonymous with football. And his football acumen and his football brilliance was something that you couldn't escape, because every Monday night throughout every NFL season since, 2009, you heard this man's voice. You saw his face. And the relevancy of it is what propelled him to this height. Doc Rivers became a champion for the coach of the Boston Celtics. How he get the damn job? Would it have had something to do with the tremendous work he did as a broadcaster on ABC prior to that? Jeff Van Gundy has been candidate for numerous jobs. You think him working on ESPN and ABC has something to do with that? John Lynch is the general manager for the San Francisco 49ers. You think him being in a booth calling NFL games might have had something to do with that? Alex Rodriguez, with his steroid cheating self, if you listen to the reports, the Mitchell Report and others, this dude is now Somebody being pursued. Fox loves him. I have no doubt this network loves him. Everybody loves Alex Rodriguez now. Why? Because he did a good job on Fox's pregame and postgame MLB show. What the hell you think? Everybody wants him because he's dating J-Lo? Of course not. Popularity matters. Charisma matters. And when the combination of both is something that people perceive you as having, it elevates your stock, which increases the possibility of you landing a job. How in God's name could Reggie McKenzie not know that? How does that happen? But let me quiet down, because God forbid that Stephen A's content gets lost in the shuffle because I'm a bit loud. Let me try this again. How could Reggie McKenzie not know that? How could Reggie McKenzie not know that? Is that better? I hope so. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. Your calls are more in a minute. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio.
Guess what? You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it! Looking at the news right now, seeing that Norv Turner finalizing a deal to become the offensive coordinator for the Carolina Panthers. I have no problem with that. He's previously been a head coach or an offensive coordinator on 9 different teams. He was a head coach in the NFL for 15 years. He only made the playoffs 4 times. If he was in the process of getting interviewed for the head coaching job, I'd have a big problem with that. Him as an offensive coordinator, however, that's an entirely different thing. It really, really is. I mean, when you look at Norv Turner right now, last 4 years since he finished up as a head coach with the San Diego Chargers in 2012, 2013, he was in Cleveland. They had the worst rushing attack. Okay. Wasn't bad passing attack, but it's Cleveland. We understand that. Last 3 years, he was in Minnesota with Teddy Bridgewater. And then obviously this year, this year when you look at him, it's like, hey. No, I'm sorry, not this year, but last year, Minnesota. He was in Minnesota last year. They ranked dead last with their rushing attack. They had the 18th ranked passing attack. But, Teddy Bridgewater had gone down. Sam Bradford wasn't that great. So the offensive numbers don't look so great. He's got something to prove, but one could argue he didn't have as much to work with over the last 3 years in Minnesota. But he's been whether it's a head coach or an offensive coordinator, he's got a 26-year career in the NFL. And I don't think him being with Cam Newton is a bad deal. I really, really don't. 888-729-3776. It's 888-SAY-ESPN. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Home Insurance. Getting a quote is easier than ever before. To the phones we go. Let's go to John in the Bronx. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me, John.
Stephen A. Smith, man. I just want to know, I respect you so much, man. I've been watching you since I was 15. I'm 27 now. It's first time calling in. I'm just saying don't change for nobody, all right?
Thank you, man. Go ahead. Appreciate it.
All right, so my first question is, it's a comment on Kevin Durant. Well, the first question is Kevin Durant the number 1 option in Golden State?
I'm sorry?
Is Kevin Durant the number 1 option in Golden State right now?
Well, listen, Steph Curry is a superstar, and he's the greatest shooter that I've ever seen. But I think that he's one, and if there was 2 1As, it would be both of them. I've seen them interchangeable. One time, some nights I see Kevin Durant being a primary option. Other nights I see Steph Curry.
Okay. Now, why I say I can't agree with the top 5 situation is I really can't agree with that, man. I look at it.
I said eventually. I didn't say right now.
No, of course, eventually. I can't see that even with going down the line. Especially, even if he changes teams right now, I could probably say that. But as of right now, he's playing free basketball, man. It's an all-star team he has. He's more free than he was in OKC, but I can't say that he's going to be. As of right now, I can't see it, man. I just can't see it. I'm not knocking the guy because he's great. Don't get me wrong. Offensively, he's great, but I can't knock it. I can't say it. I can't see it.
Well, listen. Here's what I would say to you. Kevin Durant is a career 27-point-per-game scorer, okay? He's done it his entire career. It's not like he's elevated his level of play in Golden State. His numbers have gone down. in Golden State. And in Oklahoma City, he was playing with Russell Westbrook, who, as great as he was, has a real problem being anything less than an alpha dog. And so as a result, it's an incredible adjustment that you have to make when you're playing with somebody that just does things their way. They just, they don't have any ill intent or anything like that. It's just one way. They only know one way how to do it. And that's how Russell Westbrook is. If the only person that's Russell Westbrook's friend, okay, during a game is James Harden, his former teammate, who he never wanted to leave OKC. That's about it. Everybody else, Russell Westbrook, you his enemy, man. And sometimes his own damn teammates feel that way, or at least in the case of Kevin Durant. So we got to take that into consideration too. That can't be ignored. Appreciate the call. Thank you so much. Elbert in L.A., you're live with Stephen A. Go ahead.
Hey, Stephen A., thanks for taking my call. Hey, the situation in Oakland, this is how I respect what you're saying, but this is how I see it. You got two brothers up there in a franchise business. You're in the media business. You're going to do the things for your concern in the media business, and they're going to do their concerns for the franchise.
What's the relevancy of that to this discussion?
Yeah, here's what I'm saying. If they have brought in a candidate or two candidates, they wouldn't have been candidates that would equal Gruden. They wouldn't even brought in someone that would equal him. So my point is this. Don't you think that you're being hard on them?
Absolutely not.
That's hurting. That's hurting black people too, right?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I totally emphatically disagree with you. Here's why. Because of Gruden's name and cachet combined with his association with Raider Nation, you are not looking bad if you bring in a minority candidate and they happen to be second tier compared to them or a Bill Belichick or Parcells or a Jimmy Johnson or somebody. Because when you do that, they certainly ain't going to be second tier to a Jack Del Rio. They certainly ain't going to be second tier to a Jason Garrett or somebody along those lines. But the key element here in terms of the implementation of the Rooney Rule was to bring attention to minority candidates that were not otherwise receiving it. And that was the purpose of it all, because they were always able to say, well, we considered this person, that person. You don't know that we didn't consider them. Well, damn it, we need to know because we don't believe you. That's why the Rooney Rule was implemented. So how do you, as an African American, play a role in duplicating the kind of behavior that was taking place, arguably, before you ever became an executive? Because that's the kind of things they used to do. Well, we talked to somebody. You didn't know, but we actually talked to these people. Really? When did you? How did the interview go? What kind of candidate were they? Why didn't you let everybody know you did it? These are the kind of issues that were existing prior to the implementation of the Rooney Rule, which is why the Rooney Rule was necessary.
Stephen A., you're saying superficially bring them up, even though it's a superficial act that everybody knows that
But you missed my bigger point. Yes, you can look at it as superficial. And normally, under normal circumstances, I would totally side with you on that. But when you have an elite candidate like a Gruden, a Belichick, a Bill Parcells, a Jimmy Johnson, somebody along those lines, where it is clear that that fan base and that organization wants that person, there's still nothing wrong with you saying, had it not been for this guy, these are the kind of guys we were looking at, and the rest of y'all should look at them. There's nothing wrong with doing that under those circumstances. Nothing at all.
I agree. It's just that when you hit them as hard as you're hitting them, that even hurts. Aren't you glad that they're there in that organization?
I'm not calling for them to be fired. I'm not calling for them to be fired. I'm reminding them of what their responsibilities are. When you thought I was wrong, you didn't hesitate to call up to this show and tell me, because you want to hold me accountable to make sure that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. So how come I can't do that with them?
You're doing okay. I'm not complaining about what you're doing.
I'm doing a hell of a lot better than okay, bro. But I thank you so much for your comment, and I appreciate you listening to the show. And feel free to call back anytime. 888-729-3776. 888-SAY-ESPN. More to Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio in a minute.
Guess what? You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it! Valentine's Day is coming up. And you know what that means, right? Love Doctor's here. Love Doctor's here. I'm here for all of y'all. Now, I ain't talking about myself. You understand? I'm not good at practicing what I preach when it comes to the Love Doctor. But the Love Doctor gives good advice. Got the Love Dr. Stoller segment from Martin Lawrence, one of my favorite all-time comedians, who I have to have on this show one day because he makes me laugh every day. I watch at least an episode of Martin Lawrence every day. Every day. He's hilarious, and I miss him. So, Love Doctor. Get on out of here. I'm the Love Doctor. Remember that segment when Tommy and Pam hooked up? Some of y'all might not know about it. Most of y'all do. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's the number to call up. I'm going to hold off on something I wanted to air for y'all. Talking about my biggest disappointment of the NBA season. I'm going to start off hour number 2 with that. Because I got a lot to say immediately after y'all hear that sound. It is necessary. And here's a hint. Folks in the nation's capital, pay attention. Please listen in. You don't want to miss what I got to say at the top of hour number 2. Back to the phones we go. Josh in South Carolina, you're live with Stephen A. What's up, Josh?
What's up, Stephen A., man? I had a quick comment for you, and first thing I want to say is thank you so much for the show.
Thank you.
We finally have a great show in this time slot leading up to our legend here in Charleston, Bobby Harden.
Thank you, man.
But my comment for you is, don't you need to only execute the Rooney Rule if there's a job opening? And according to Mr. Davis, they had Gruden lined up before Del Rio was out the door. So if there's no opening, there's no Rooney Rule needed.
No, Josh. No, Josh, you're wrong, man. Here's why, okay? I respectfully say that you're wrong, but I want you to listen to why. If that were the case, Reggie McKenzie, the general manager for the Oakland Raiders, would have never mentioned that they had interviewed candidates to begin with. So what I'm trying to say is by virtue of doing the interview process, it's because you felt you had to. And if you had to do it, my point is, why not feel compelled to publicize it? Nobody's saying that you had to hire the candidate because we understand that Gruden is Gruden and he's synonymous with Raider Nation. And we know that if he wanted that job, it was going to be his. And even if you knew that he was the guy that you were bringing on board, that's fine. But the purpose of the Rooney Rule, which all the owners signed on for, was to elevate the profile of minority candidates who were otherwise being held back and pushed behind curtains where you could never know nor appreciate their value. So what I'm saying is, yeah, John Gruden might have been your coach, Josh. But what's wrong with sitting there and saying, man, if it wasn't for John Gruden, these are some people we would have looked at right here.
Oh, yeah, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. And I agree with you.
And what I'm saying is the fact that an African-American GM didn't make that call is disappointing.
I got you.
Go ahead.
But maybe it's Mr. Davis. Maybe that's where I'm getting lost here because it made it seem like there wasn't an opening to begin with.
Well, again, you're focused on the opening. I'm saying forget the opening. Even if it was shut because John Gruden was going to be your head coach. It's about prioritizing that there is a profile that needs to be built on behalf of minority candidates who otherwise can't get those opportunities. That's the whole objective. And that objective was passed on by somebody who happens to be an African-American executive of all people. That is the disappointment, and that's where it all comes from. Josh, I got to go, but I appreciate the call. 888-729-3776. That's 888-SAY-ESPN. Hour number 2, we'll get more into the NFL playoffs, week 2 of the NFL playoffs, plus my biggest disappointment of the NBA season. You don't want to miss this. Talk to y'all in a second.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Hey there, I'm a glue stick, so I have one job. I glue kid stuff. So sorry for being jealous of Geico, who does a ton more, like give you 24/7 access to thousands of licensed agents. And Geico has been around for over 75 years and has a 97% customer satisfaction rating. While I've just got mediocre adhesive skills, Geico also has an award-winning mobile app. Uh-oh, arts and crafts time. No eating the glue stick, Miss Lydia.
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.
This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. Welcome to hour number 2 of the Stephen A. Smith Show. Here with you on ESPN Radio, as I love to be every weekday, over the airways of ESPN Radio in over 250 markets across the United States of America. And, of course, nationwide on ESPN Radio, Sirius XM style, channel 80. Number to call up is 888-729-3776. It's 888-SAY-ESPN. Let me tell you, and I'll take phone calls on Durant, on Gruden, on a few things. But let me tell you what my biggest disappointment of the NBA season has been. I can get into a lot of things because the biggest surprise has been the Boston Celtics. I didn't expect that. The Miami Heat were my sleeper. They're not disappointing me right now. And then, of course, not only that, the other thing to consider is my biggest disappointment. Ladies and gentlemen, I spoke about that today on my television show, First Take, on ESPN. It airs every weekday from 10 a.m. to noon. It's live. It is not taped. I got a few things on my mind about this team. But before I tell you and get into really why, I wanted you to hear what I said on national TV this morning. Kat, take it away.
The damn Washington Wizards, I'm calling you out. I'm so sick of these people. You know, the Washington Wizards, John Wall had 35 and 11 last night. What the hell are you doing losing to the Utah Jazz without Rudy Gobert? How did that happen? This is a team, Max Kellerman. Do you know what the Washington Wizards record is against sub 500 teams? They're 11 and 10. 11 and 10 against sub 500 teams.
Get it done.
You know, let me tell you something right now. And you know why that is? Let me tell y'all why that is. Because if you notice, they play Cleveland tough. They play a lot of these teams tough. They got a better than 500 record against better than 500 teams, Max. Do you know why they have the record that they have against sub 500 teams? Because you play up to your competition, you play down to your competition. Right. You know what that means, Max? You think you have arrived. What the hell has the Washington Wizards done to think they have arrived? Listen, I was in Atlanta to see them. Got nothing but love for the brothers. I root for them. I picked them to go to the conference finals last year. I was hoping they would do something this year. Y'all right now are looking like straight garbage. Bradley Beal, what the hell was that play last night? Where's that play? Do we have that play on film? I wish we had it because we needed to show how this dude goes up for a jump shot, thinks it's going to get blocked, and basically throws it to himself. How the hell has that happened? You're Bradley Beal. And oh, by the way, this is a guy that I walked up to in Atlanta, and I'm thinking all-star. And then I watched the next few games, and some of my peeps reminds me, hey, he ain't clutch. So I took the liberty of going to the research department. Let me look at Bradley Beal here. Bradley Beal clutch stats, 2.8 points, 29th in the league, Max. 30.2% shooting, 21.1% from three-point range. He's a shooter. And 21%. Okay. And 67% a shooter. 67% from the free throw line. Let me tell you something. Him and John Wall are big time. Y'all ain't playing like it when it counts. Not when it counts. Scott Brooks, you're the main culprit. And I love Scott Brooks. Damn good coach. Damn it. I want greatness. Not good. Greatness. Could you call some plays for Otto Porter, who's your best shooter, shoot 45% from three-point range? Could you call some plays for Otto Porter? Oubre, could you get him more involved?
Otto Porter is a bad guy, but you know what? He's got to be your fourth best player.
Last point, Max. Bradley Beal and John Wall, I'm going to put it on Front Street. Yeah. There's something about their relationship that ain't right. I could just see it.
Of course.
Get it together, Wizards. Get it together. You too good for this.
I'm a bit calmer now. But make no mistake, I meant every single damn word that I said. Ladies and gentlemen, if the playoffs were to begin today, do you understand what is transpiring? The Washington Wizards right now are a half game away from being the 6th or the 7th seed in the Eastern Conference. Bradley Beal is in the midst of a $138 million contract extension. John Wall just re-upped for $170 million. All right? $170 million. In 2019, now he's making $18 million this year. He's making $19 million next year. Ladies and gentlemen, in 2019, 2020, John Wall is on the books to make $37.8 million. In 2020, 2021, John Wall will make $40.8 million. And then that season after that, he's at $43.8 million. 43.8. Ladies and gentlemen, the Washington Wizards have not been in the conference finals since 1979. I was 12. 12. I just turned 50. John Wall and Bradley Beal weren't even born yet. How in the hell are you doing this? The Washington Wizards lost to the Utah Jazz by 47 points this year. The Washington Wizards, brace yourself, are you sitting down for this? Lost to the Brooklyn Nets by 35 this year. What the hell is going on? What is that? Otto Porter's the best shooter on the team. Scott Brooks ain't calling his number. We starting to see why Scott Brooks is going from Oklahoma City. I'm not saying he's not a good coach because I know he can coach. But he panicked in Game 7 of the conference semifinals last year. I don't know what the hell he's doing this year. I don't understand it. Kelly Oubre, who only got 1 minute in a Game 7 when you know you needed his defense and youthful legs. I don't know what's going on. I had to watch the Wizards going to the conference finals. This year, I said, let them show me something. I'm not satisfied. Enough's enough. John Wall and Bradley Beal make up one of the best backcourts in the league. They don't look like they're on the same page. Little comments where they throwing salt on each other about guys not being together or thinking about their stats instead of trying to win and all of this other stuff. Just look at them on the court. Just look at them. Something's missing. Scott Brooks, Tommy Shepard, Ernie Grunfeld, figure it out. Figure it out. There's no excuse for this. None. Absolutely none. When you play up to your competition, but down to other competition, you know what that shows me? You think you've arrived. What the hell are you, when the hell did you think you arrived? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry, can somebody help me out? Was there a parade down Pennsylvania Avenue somewhere that I didn't know about other than when the president was his inaugural, when it was inaugurated? Is there something I missed? There's something that I missed? Did the Washington Wizards suddenly become the Washington Capitals? Is there something I missed? Come on, man. Come on. 888-729-3776. 888-SAY-ESPN. They got to do better. I tell you who is doing better, them damn Miami Heat. I'm telling you something right now. I believe in this team. They got guts. They got moxie. They ain't scared of nothing. They coming. I think they got a chance to knock off one of the top 2 seeds in the Eastern Conference. Deion Waiters comes back healthy. He's healthy. He stays healthy. I think they got a chance. I really do. And I'm a Josh Richardson fan. I'm here to tell you. I truly am. That brother brings it on both ends of the floor. Only averaging 12.7 points a game, but this boy gets up in you. He defends, and he's an energizer bunny. I love it. They got a lot of heart in Miami. Washington Wizards need to do something. I ain't paying attention to Toronto because of DeRozan. I don't care how great DeRozan and those guys are. LeBron is their kryptonite. They'd run into LeBron and they'd fold. Period. Dwayne Casey is one of the best coaches in the NBA, but they'd run into LeBron and they'd fold. It's just that simple. Max Kellerman talked about how his biggest disappointment was OKC. Yeah, it's OKC, but at the same time, it's going to take time to figure that out when you got a 3-headed monster and you got to work around everything else. I understand that. I totally get that. So that's something to consider and pay attention to. Houston, Harden, and CP3 got to get on the floor together for some significant chunks of time if they're really going to develop the chemistry needed. You know, when Harden ain't there, Chris Paul goes berserk. When Chris Paul ain't there, Harden goes berserk. But you got to do it together if you're going to beat Golden State. And Steph Curry, listen, they can talk about hurt all they want to. Kevin Durant sits out 3 games. Klay Thompson rests last night. Steph Curry misses a few games. You know what Golden State's doing? They resting their players. They're just not being as obvious with it as they were last year, which means they're going to be ready for the pro season. They might not lose a game. Keep messing with them. Keep messing with them. And San Antonio's quietly winning. So we got to pay attention to them as well. But somebody needs to get it together. 888-SAY-ESPN. 888-729-3776. Back to your calls or more in a minute. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
By the way, just for the record, let me tell y'all something. This kid, Mike Mitchell, for the Pittsburgh Steelers, talking about they're going to beat the Patriots. How do you just look past the Jacksonville Jaguars? How do you do that? How do you look past the Jacksonville Jaguars? Last October 8th, they spanked you 30-9. 30-9. I don't know what to be more concerned about if I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. Mike Mitchell being stupid enough to look past the Jacksonville Jaguars talking about how they beat the Patriots. Because it's a double whammy. First of all, you got to get past Jacksonville, which ain't a gimme. And secondly, if you pull that off, Tom Brady and them, because they're going through a bye week as far as I'm concerned, going up against the Tennessee Titans. The way I look at it, Tom Brady and Gronk and the crew will be waiting. That is the deal. That's how I view it. That's how I look at it. It's a stupid comment on his part. Not calling him stupid. And I know he can play. It's just not a smart comment. Patriots have been spanking the Steelers for years now. Who the hell are you to talk about the Patriots? Oh, I know we beat. I guarantee you we beat them. Really? Can you speak for the other 10 guys on defense? Oh, by the way, and when you bypassing, you're willing to disrespect Jacksonville by bypassing them, knowing that their defense is elite. Isn't it interesting that Mike Mitchell doesn't have to go against them? He doesn't have to go against that defense. He gets to talk junk because he's chasing Blake Bortles. It's the Steelers offense that got to go against them. And oh, by the way, if you're the Steelers offense, how are you feeling about the fact that your star quarterback is like this? They're the toughest defense I've ever gone against. I mean, why don't you just come out and just say it, Ben? I don't know if I can beat them. Well, that's refreshing. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. Marcus in D.C., you're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Thank you for taking my call, Stephen A. I just wanted to talk about the Wizards, and I just had to look at this at a different perspective because it was just a few years ago we had Nick Young, Jordan Crawford, JaVale McGee, Andre Blatche. I can't really say that this Wizards team is a disappointment because, as you said, they compete hard against the best teams, Celtics, Rockets, Cavaliers.
And they wet the bed against mediocre teams.
Right, as well. But I can't say that they are a disappointment yet because once we get to the playoffs, I believe that, you know what I'm saying, they will play their hardest and we'll be able to see them, you know, because everything's going to be on the line. So I can't really say this is a disappointment because So you're
one of those guys that's cool with the fact that they're going to go to the semifinals and go home. Or go in the first round and go home. You're fine with that? I mean, just say it. Just say it, Marcus. Just say it. Just say that when they go to the playoffs as a 6th or 7th seed and they go home in the first round, you ain't going to have no problem with it. Why don't you just say it?
Because they can beat every team probably except for the Cavaliers. So I don't see that to be the case. When they go to the playoffs, I just believe that, you know, they can compete with everybody except probably the Cavs. So it's not really a disappointment. We just have to wait and see because when it comes down to it, when it's prime time, I just feel like they're going to show up. So we can't call them a disappointment until we see. It's way too early. Way too early in the season.
All right, goodbye. You're annoying me. You know, you're one of them soft fans with minimal expectations, man. You know what I'm saying? They've been in the playoffs 3 of the last 4 years. When are you going to take the next step? He bringing up Nick Young, Swaggy P, when he was in D.C. Really? Come on. Moving on. CB in Pasadena. No rapping, no rhyming. Just answer the questions and make your point. Go ahead.
To reiterate your point earlier, you know, the Washington Wizards, I know they're struggling, but I can remember, you know, when they were the Washington Bullets, you know, which was controversial with that name. They had Kevin Greavy, Bobby Dandridge, and Wes Unseld. Yeah, they had a good squad, and I believe they played Seattle Supersonics with Dustin Williams and Dennis Johnson. But what I wanted to say, Stephen, also Kevin Durant, he is interplanetary and utterly electric. But you know what? This is my biggest point, Stephen A. I done unpacked my bag, talking to you probably about 10 days ago, for going to Las Vegas. But now, for Vegas, now my beloved Raiders are going to touchdown. And I packed my bags back up for a valuable road trip. I know it's a gray area between the Rooney Rule and John Gruden, but the silver and black, I think we have no problem with it. But we got a lot of things we got to clean up. We got gap integrity on defense with our linebackers. Our doggone secondary is getting toasted like Elvin the Toast Patterson. You might as well call us toast. And then our offense, I can't blame everything on Derek Carr because there was some drop passes this year. And then we didn't have Janikowski. So maybe Gruden can, corral that locker room and get these boys back on track. What do you think?
Well, listen, I think that Gruden better get them on track. You signed for $100 million, shouldn't you? I want Gruden to make sure that he delivers the goods and delivers a Super Bowl championship within the next 4 years. John Gruden's being paid more than Bill Belichick. John Gruden's got a $100 million guaranteed deal with incentives that can pump it over 120. John Gruden is being paid more than the highest paid guaranteed player in the National Football League because John Gruden has charisma. John Gruden has a history with Raider Nation. John Gruden can get away with this despite the fact that he hasn't coached since 2008. And the 6 years that he coached from 2008 or 2002 rather to 2008, the man went 45-51 with only 2 playoff appearances and 0 victories. So you know what that means? That means essentially that the last time that we're talking about here, let's put this in its proper perspective, CB. The last time that the Los Angeles Raiders, or the Oakland Raiders rather, won, or John Gruden won a playoff game, really, of consequence. I shouldn't say a playoff game because he did go to Tampa. Won the Super Bowl in 2002. Outside of that, what are we looking at here? You tell me.
Well, it's going to be a work in progress. They haven't won since Hector was a pup in the horse and buggy days. I know that. But, we have loyal fans, the Black Hole and the Raider Nation. They're going to build a beautiful stadium out there in Las Vegas.
That's true. But John Gruden has not won a playoff game since 2002.
Yeah, and I know you always reiterate on the Dallas, with Jarrett and whatnot. They ain't won nothing either. They haven't won. They're franchise.
We know how I feel about the Cowboys. We know how I feel about the Cowboys. No need to go there. But I appreciate the call, man. I got to run. 888-729-3776. That's 888-SAY-ESPN, the Stephen A. Smith Show. And that segment was brought to you by Pennzoil Synthetics, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. 888-SAY-ESPN. We'll continue taking your calls, talking about John Gruden, talking about NFL Week 2 of the playoffs, and, of course, the NBA. Wizards are my most disappointing team. Who's yours? More to Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio in a minute.
Guess what? You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it!
Never cease to amaze me. Article in the Washington Post. Got interviewed by the Sporting News about First Take. Sporting News interviewed me and Max Kellerman for an article. You can find it now, sportingnews.com. Mike McCarthy, you can check out the article there. So that's one point to mention it. It's sportingnews.com. Michael McCarthy. And the headline, ESPN Stephen A. Smith, the quest is annihilation. It's just that simple. Well, that's accurate because I'm in the business of competition. First Take going up against anybody, I'm going to try to beat you. You're going up against me, I'm going to try to beat you. You're going up against me with a radio show, I'm going to try to beat you. If I succeed, fine. That's the goal. If I fail, well, you know what? Get somebody in my place that can succeed. Do a better job. It's just that simple to me. But needless to say, the Washington Post has to piggyback off of that and create a headline that is grotesquely inaccurate. ESPN Stephen A. Smith on Jamel Hill and Trump. My colleague and friend Jamel Hill, by the way. When you attack him, then we are stepping out of lane. The Washington Post article written by Cindy Boren quotes me entirely accurately in terms of my quotes as it pertains to why I don't really use social media like that. Wasn't a quote about Jemele Hill. You don't hear me say a word about my friend. You don't hear me say a word about some of the things that she has said. You know why? Because she's my friend and colleague. And anything that I had to say, I'd say to her face. I damn sure wouldn't tell you unless she wanted me to. So to use a headline like that to basically draw attention to very generic quotes about what I feel as an employee at ESPN and how I go about the business of conducting myself, to try to attach that as if I'm trying to call out my colleague is a flat out lie. But what else is new? That's why I have my radio show, because I can chop those down at my discretion. I'll leave it at that. It's not worth any more of my energy. 888-729-3776 is 888-SAY-ESPN. Back to the phones we go. Let's go to Pat in Long Beach. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
Stephen A., how you doing? I'm a huge Steelers fan, man. I got to touch on a few points that you guys haven't talked about.
Go ahead.
And that's the offensive line of the Steelers, and also the defense has really stepped up since the Jaguars have beat us. And I think that's going to make a huge difference when we play them this week.
Well, you could say it's going to make a huge difference. What is undoubtedly true is that Mike Mitchell, looking right past them towards the Patriots, is ill-advised, to say the least. I think you'd agree with that, wouldn't you?
Most definitely.
All right, my man. I appreciate the call. Thank you so much. Basim in San Diego, you're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Thanks for taking my call, Stephen A.
Go ahead.
I just want to make two quick points about LeVar Ball and Belichick.
Oh, LeVar Ball's still on your mind, huh? Go ahead.
Yes. I was trying to call yesterday. It's just hard to find you, Stephen A. You're very famous, my friend.
All right, go ahead.
But what I wanted to say, LeVar Ball is using a tactic similar to Donald Trump, if you remember, in the primary, by saying outrageous things so the media can cover him, in a crazy way. And so that's why I think Steve Kerr and Stan Van Gundy reacting to that. That's how I disagree with them, is because LeVar Ball is not affecting American people. Donald Trump is. And so it's you're doing a great job by putting him on the spotlight. And that's one point. Belichick point. Do you think, Stephen A., that Garoppolo, the reporter that got the report, maybe got it from Garoppolo? What do you think about those?
Seth Wickersham, I sincerely doubt it. I don't get the impression that Jimmy Garoppolo is remotely interested in commenting about his former team when he landed in a good spot in San Francisco. He wanted to be out there. Bill Belichick sent him out there. Bill Belichick was incredibly fond of him. And I don't think he would put Bill Belichick in the Patriots organization in that kind of uncomfortable and compromising position. I don't believe that for 1 second. But I appreciate the call. Thank you. Let's go to JP in Brooklyn. You're live with Stephen A. What's up?
What's up, Stephen A.?
No, we can't hear you, JP. We can't hear you at all, bro. Speak up.
I'm sorry.
JP, we can't hear you. Call back or get a different line. Thanks a lot. Let's go to Jameson in Utah. You're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Hey, Stephen A., big fan. Just wanted to talk about Paul Pierce's comment that he made recently. And
I did not see his comment. What did he say?
That Kevin Durant is the best scorer in NBA history.
I'm not going to say that, because that would be Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the all-time leading scorer with the one most unstoppable move in NBA history. But I'm not going to sit up there and dismiss Paul Pierce the way others have tried. Kevin Durant at 6'11" with 3-point shooting ability and ball handling ability to get to the basket or to pull up mid-range. Kevin Durant is one of the greatest scorers the game has ever seen.
Absolutely, and I would agree with that. My comment that I want to make, and would appreciate your input, is I think Durant is able to do so well currently, and that's why he's been talked about so much, is because playing with Klay Thompson and Steph Curry, there's not the same pressure that was on him when he was in Oklahoma City to be the dude. And so when you can here's the deal.
But here's the deal. Even when it was pressure on him, he was still averaging 27 a night.
But not able to make it past a Cleveland or to make it to the championship.
Well, not able to win the championship, but he's made it to the finals. He's made it to 2 or 3 conference finals. He got injured on a couple occasions as well. Let's not act like Kevin Durant turned into some scrub or was some scrub before he arrived in Golden State. Kevin Durant was a superstar player before he ever arrived at Golden State. That's why I was so peeved when he ultimately went to Golden State, because I knew that there was no way in hell that they were going to lose the championship with that roster last year, because Kevin Durant is that lethal.
Agreed. But do you see any validation in my argument that he's able to do so well? Because every game he goes to, he knows that if he has an off night, he still has Steph, he still has Clay.
Well, it's true, but it doesn't mean it has any validity to it despite its truth. And the reason why I say that is because Kevin Durant was averaging 27 a night before he ever arrived in Golden State. And he was just as efficient. He is not a byproduct of them. He elevated them. Despite their greatness, being 73-9, he still took them to another level because he's that great. So I don't buy into, oh my goodness, yeah, I know it's easier for him having teammates like that and playing in a system like that. I totally understand, and there are benefits that come his way because of it. But let's not act like, as an individual, his skill sets benefit because of them. He was doing this anyway. When they lost the finals in 5 games to Miami, when he was in OKC, he averaged 33 on better than 50% shooting in the finals. We forget that sometimes. We don't need to. That's all I'm saying. That's what we must remember. Your calls to close out the show in a minute. You're listening live to Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. By the way, ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Drivers who switch to Progressive can save an average of $620. 888-SAY-ESPN. Back with your calls before I pass it off to Will Kane in a minute. You're listening to Stephen A. on ESPN Radio.
Guess what? You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it!
Ding, ding, dong. Ding, 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 dong. Keep them heads ringing. 48 minutes past hour number 2. Back here in the Stephen A. Smith Show. ESPN Radio. Top of the hour. The new Will Kane Show will be on ESPN Radio. Make sure to tune in to him today and every weekday from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. He is the reserve, the backup. He is not the number one voice to lead in. He is the backup. He's a rookie. But you support him. He's a good dude. Completely polar opposite than me. The antithesis of me. But everybody can't beat me. It's okay. It's not a crime. Okay? So you should listen to Will Kane. Just know that he is a rookie who is learning on the job and needs your support. And as long as you remember that he is a rookie and you remind him that he is a rookie, he'll be just fine. He'll be just fine. Will Kane's a good dude. Highly knowledgeable, very smart, and has the courage of his convictions. I'll give him credit for that. I actually love the guy. Just don't tell him. Just don't tell him. Let's go back to the phones at 888-729-3776, 888-SAY-ESPN. Mark in Mississippi, you're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Hey, Stephen A., thanks for taking my call. I just wanted to get a couple of predictions from you, and if I could, I just wanted to know if you think my Patriots are going to repeat, because I really see nobody beating us. And number 2, with the emergence of Kuzma and Ingram, do you see LeBron or Paul George coming to L.A. during the summer?
I'm not sure I see LeBron coming in this summer. I really don't. It's possible. I'm not going to rule it out, but I would give Cleveland the edge to keep him on board rather than assume he would come somewhere else. That's number 1. Number 2, I mean, I think the New Orleans Saints might win the Super Bowl championship. Drew Brees with a running game and a defense with Michael Thomas. His Twitter handle can't stop Mike. He's a bad brother. New Orleans is no joke. Minnesota's going to give them a run. It's going to be a rough ride. But New Orleans is used to playing in domes. They ain't got to play in that freezing cold, that ice bowl weather that Minnesota subjects you to. I got to tell you something. I think New Orleans is going to beat Minnesota this weekend. And ain't no way in hell somebody going to convince me that Nick Foles is going to beat the Saints. And that's assuming he gets by Matt Ryan and the Falcons, which I don't think is going to happen. So, no, I don't think the Patriots are going to repeat. Thanks for the call. Chris in L.A., you're live with Stephen A. Real quick. Go ahead, Chris.
Hey, Stephen A. Real quick. I do believe Durant will go down as the best perimeter scorer in history just off sheer efficiency. Doesn't need 40 shots to get 40 points. Number 2, OKC is the most disappointing team. They should be better than 22-20 just off sheer talent. And number 3, Reggie Miller saying regarding Lonzo being on the trade block if his dad doesn't shut up. I disagree. LeVar's going to do that anyway. How about his son played better than he wouldn't be putting out there that his coach should be fired because they would have more wins than what we have now. Jesus. Sorry,
Gotcha.
Thanks, Stephen A.
I appreciate it. Appreciate the vent. Dez in Pennsylvania, you're live with Stephen A. Go ahead, man.
Hey, Stephen A. Thanks for taking the call here.
Go ahead, man.
All right, I just got a comment on John Gruden's salary. John Gruden, he's a good coach there. I like his fiery attitude. But $100 million over Bill Belichick, I just can't see it. I think you got to prove yourself. When he went to
wait, stop. Are you turning down the money they offered to you?
Oh, no.
All right, then. So what we saying is, it's not that John Gruden's wrong for getting the money. It's that if you're Robert Kraft, you might need to elevate Bill Belichick's salary.
Exactly.
There we go.
And
all right,
and if he does resign, he can get it up there. When he went to Tampa Bay, Tony Dungy, he built that team in Tampa Bay. John Gruden, he came back and he won that for Tampa Bay. Would Tony Dungy get that kind of a salary?
Would Tony Dungy get that? Well, Tony Dungy is not relevant in this conversation because he retired. And he's on NBC. And unlike most of the coaches who go to television looking for a landing spot until they get the next job, Tony Dungy legitimately retired. He had been in the NFL for close to 30 years. So he legitimately walked away from the sport of coaching, of coaching in the NFL because he wanted to do something different and a bit less taxing. Bill Cowher is the name that comes to my mind. If you're Bill Cowher, you might be scratching your head right now. You're working on CBS, but you might have been able to get about 75 to 100 million somewhere. You might be scratching your head right now. Appreciate the call. Take it easy. Mike in Jersey, real quick. You're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Hey, Stephen. Hey, quick question about Russell Westbrook. The last 2 games, I think they lost, and I've noticed that Russell Westbrook just kind of sits on the end of the bench by himself. And George and Melo sit next to each other. Is it me or the body language? I just don't think they're getting along well. I mean, obviously they're not playing too well together. But is there more to that than?
I don't think so. Not yet. It's still early. I think that's a legitimate question if this were March or April. Not right now. Not right now. I'm just not of the mindset that this is what it is. I don't believe that. And so for me, it is what it is. I mean. Melo, Westbrook, Paul George, they got to get it together. They really, really do. That's all I can tell you on that matter. I'm about to get on out of here, pass off the show to the great Will Kane. Let me take that back. He's great when I say he's great. Until then, know this. He is a rookie who's learning. Talk to y'all in 22 hours. Stephen A. signing off. Until then, peace and love.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.